Welcome to Week in Review. When you look back over the last week, were you able to share the gospel with anybody? You say, Larry, I haven't shared with people. I mean, I do. I'm open. I talked recently with a young man. He's a dear friend. He's a son in the faith. He's the director of evangelism and prayer for the Assemblies of God network of churches. He's a fireball for Jesus. Joe Oden, he's a dear friend of mine. I was able to marry he and his wife. But you know what? Joe is an evangelizer. He equips people. But he told me, he said, Larry, when I talk and equip people in evangelism, I have to share the stats. I have the data. It's embarrassing, and it's really not good how many people do not share the gospel with any consistency. I mean, he'll do a test with people. And I've done the same thing. I said, not to embarrass anybody, but think, have you in the past week, month, past year, shared the gospel with somebody, been able to pray with somebody that they could come to know the Lord Jesus Christ in a personal way? And folks, if you have 300 people in an auditorium and you say, okay, put your heads down, heads bowed, how many of you would say that in the past year, past month, whatever, you shared with somebody, you were privileged to lead them to Christ? Folks, I mean, I shake my head at times. I think, oh my heavens, I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll look, there may be 12 hands out of 300. Now, when you talk to people, they say, well, I get tongue-tied and I'm so busy, or I'm a mom with so many things, or I got a job. I don't want to offend people. I don't know how to handle objections. All of these things are there. And that's why I equip people. In fact, you can go online. It's all free. You can just click Loving Lifestyle Evangelism. Just click it. Bang, and you'll see there's 5 equipping videos. You have to pay, you have to put a subscription or get a password. It'll equip you, inspire, and motivate you to share your faith. Now, Joe Oden told me a little bit ago, he said he got on a plane. Who was there? But Pete Buttigieg. You say, who's that guy? Well, he's a gay guy that has a partner, and he was the Secretary of Transportation for the United States under Joe Biden. And maybe you thought, yeah, I hope somebody can reach him. Well, Joe sat there, and guess who he's talked to on the plane? Pete Buttigieg. Able to talk. Joe has a testimony track he'll share with people. Now, I want to inspire you in this. You say, Larry, you get excited about it. I am, because God so loved the world, he sent his only begotten son. And I want to share with you jaw-dropping testimonies how God reaches out to reach people, and he wants to use you. You may be praying even today or this week. You say, I have a relative in Chicago, or I have a brother in Orlando, and I pray somebody will go to them and share the gospel. God will open their eyes. They get saved in that. Well, guess what? There's people in Orlando, Chicago, and Pensacola, wherever, and they're praying for their relatives and friends that are here in the area where you live. And guess how they're going to be reached? You. And this is not like taking medicine. Gospel means good news. Let me give you some testimonies. When we planted a church in California, Pasadena, Cheyenne, Lou Engle, these are buddies for 40 years with me. And you know what? One of the guys that was there in the new church plant was doing some work. And as he was doing housework, all of a sudden somebody came to the base of the ladder and said, can you help me? Can you help me? He came down. He didn't know an emergency. And it was some lady, baseball cap, whatever. And this lady said, my car won't start. I'm trapped or stuck. And this was in I think it was in Hollywood or Brentwood. Well, guess what? He went down, got her car started. She was very grateful. And she said, okay, can I pay you? He said, no. And she said, okay, well, how about you want a quick lunch or something? So they went maybe In-N-Out Burger. They sat down. And then when they sat down, he introduced himself. And he gave his name. And then he looked at the lady and he said, and your name? And she said, oh, you know who I am. And he didn't. He was so removed from, involvement in the world because he had been in jail and all kinds of problems before his conversion. But she said, I'm Madonna. And guess what? He said to her sincerely, he said, Madonna who? He was able to share the gospel, his radical testimony. You say, wow, God can reach Madonna? Yes. I know somebody, Marilyn Manson. You say, what? Oh yeah, reaching. How about George Harrison, member of the Beatles? Now he was into Krishna, and even when he, in his life, he sang that song, My Sweet Little, or people sang it, thought it was about Jesus. But George got mixed up in Middle Eastern religion and New Age and Krishna and incense, and, you go down that path. But I know a fella in England, I've got his testimony track, And his sister was married to George, and he knew George. Well, guess what? One day he told me, he said, I had the chance. I went to his mansion, I sat there, and I shared the gospel with George Harrison. You say, the Beatles? Yeah. And this young man is a fiery guy, but he's an average guy. He loves to share the gospel. Let me give you some more of these. I was I went years ago before. I haven't gone into Starbucks in over 10 years because of a certain stand. They took on same-sex marriage and endorsement and blah, 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 blah. So I don't go there. But you know what? I walked into one, and who was there? This was in California. There was Martin Sheen. That's Charlie Sheen's dad, the famous actor. He was right there getting a coffee. So I talked to him. We had a great conversation. I told him I was out of state and everything. Guess what I was able to give him? Boop! I gave him my testimony track at the end. Now you say, well, Larry, they don't read that. Oh, you'd be surprised how many times I just watch. They get in their car, they start to read it. In the area, when we were living in the D.C. area, I believe it was, I heard that Jane Seymour, remember Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, and she's an actress, beautiful woman, sells her beauty products. I heard she was going to be at Macy's or whatever. So I just felt in a prompting. I went. I met her. I talked to her. Guess what I gave her before our time was up? I said, Jane, it's an honor to meet you. I've had a spiritual journey, an odyssey, and I think this could be an inspiration to you. Would you like to read? Sure. She took it. And what do? I just thank, and then I walk away. God, please help. Let me give you another jaw dropper. This is a big one. We were planting a church in North Carolina. And after our first meeting there, the news came on. I was at my friend's house. We were eating, and they announced that Jim Valvano, he was the famous coach of NC State, Jimmy V. They won the national championship. They beat Houston. All of you sports fans, you say, oh, I remember Jimmy V. Well, they said that he had cancer. The next day, I discovered he was probably 10 minutes from where I was. You say, Larry, that's a coincidence. No. God loves people, and he wants us to be sensitive and to share the gospel. So I went to the neighborhood area. I asked a postal guy. I said, you know where Jimmy Valvano lives? Oh, yeah, he lives down the street right here. I went to the house. I knocked. I was polite. I smiled. I didn't barge in and start, the Bible, and you're going to hell. No, I just said, I'm visiting from the D.C. area. You know what? That was his wife. I told her my background was Catholic. That was Jimmy's background. And I wrote a book. I said, could I pass that along? Sure. So I wrote down their address. Guess who I sent the book to? I went back there. I forget if it was a month, 6 weeks later. I went back to that same house, knocked on the door. Guess who opened the door? There he was, Jimmy V. I said, I'm the one that gave that. But he said, come on in. So my buddy and I, we went. We sat. We spent a half hour sitting in the living room. He was on the last stages of whatever, stage 4 cancer. I shared the gospel with him. I was able to lay it out with him. He had my book. And do you know, later I talked on the phone with his daughter who had come to the Lord, and she was able to share. And you know what? One plants, another waters, but God gives the increase. And she gave an encouraging report to me that before Jimmy V died, she said, I believe God opened his heart, because he came to a service where she was being baptized herself. Now, folks, you say, that's far out. That doesn't happen to me. Well, are you ready to share? Are you intentional? Are you proactive? Are you prepared? I just end with this. There's a brother from Australia, Ray Comfort. Ray Comfort is an equipping evangelist. He tells people the same thing like me. Maybe you've seen him with Kirk Cameron on TV. He's a great guy. I've met Ray. And he said, you'll never catch me without a track on the gospel on me. And he was in the swimming pool, and somebody came up and said, Ray, you said you'll never be seen. I think he maybe even said, I'll give you $5 or something if you ever catch me without a testimony track or something. And so this guy came up in the pool. You know what he said? Can I have my $5 or something, $10? I caught you. He said, no, you didn't. He reached in his bathing suit, and he pulled out a coin that has God so loved the world, and it shares the gospel. And he gave it to that guy. He's prepared. Always be ready to share, the Bible tells us. All right? We're going to continue on with this because I want you motivated to share the gospel.
Hey friends, if you felt this video was helpful, make sure you like and subscribe so you get notified once new videos become available. Thanks.